We're in times of extraordinary and increasingly accelerated change. If we do not make the right choices, most of us will be left behind, irrelevant, unimportant, and likely without income. How must we prepare for this? This is even without age as a factor. As we age, we cannot adapt, remember, or learn as quickly. Knowledge of life may allow us to flow with the changes in a given career, but more and more we are being forced to change careers. Unless we are able to adapt for what is likely the future, our fate may not be any more than poverty. We don't get to dictate the level of our poverty if we fall behind. Society does. That could either be extreme poverty with a substantial lack of food, or simple poverty, meaning we only live with the bare essentials. The average American is becoming poorer and poorer, while wealthy Americans are getting much wealthier. This has been a trend for decades. We are now at the stage which has the greatest income to wealth inequality in our history. There is no reason to think this won't continue to worsen. Many projections are that in the coming years, there will be a short window of time in which the majority of jobs disappear. This will be from an increased reliability on robots and artificial intelligence. It has been predicted that this will happen in as little as a few years. I suspect COVID has hurried the time frame along. The predictions could be wrong, in which case, at least there are jobs. But what if these predictions are right? We are not prepared if they are. If the predictions are true, as I said before, we do not decide the level of our poverty. Those with the money do. And remember, they generally feel it is the fault of those who cannot stay up that they are in poverty, that they are deserving of what they have. As a country, what standards of living do we owe our citizens? Some feel we owe nothing to them. What if everyone could contribute? There would be a great return on the money we spend in education and developing them. I have crisscrossed the United States and traveled to more parts of our country than anyone I know. It amazes me how much poverty we have. I've also been to over 70 countries, and I've seen it as only the developing world that has deeper poverty than we do. I've seen many homes in the U.S. with holes in their outer walls, which have to endure frigid winters that way. Counties in which much less than 50% of the population have effective sewage systems. There are even a number of places which still have dirt floors. Children whose family cannot afford to buy them coats in cold climates. Places which still burn coal for heat, which I'm told is awful. The people of these places most often have poor communication skills, an inability to read and write functionally, and generally are poorly educated on most subjects. Is allowing significant numbers of people to live in extreme poverty and crime infestation really what being a great country is? I believe we owe it to ourselves to offer them a better life. We owe it to ourselves to develop them so they can contribute. Yes, let them earn it, but give them a chance. They then will contribute to our lives, all lives. The problem with this, as our reality is, we can quickly find ourselves in the same situation as I did. I've held various positions in which I worked as much as 100 to 120 hours per week. When I had my own business, one year I worked 363 full days and worked a half a day the other 2 days. I've done numerous extreme athletic feats of endurance and effort. I'm not lazy. I'm educated and understand a lot about business. Yet in 2009, my shoulder locked up. I couldn't use my right arm. I couldn't type or write. I was in extreme pain, and most nights slept little. Sometimes not at all. I was in misery. This was in the middle of the financial crash, and this was after a couple of cases of corruption led to the fall of my business, which had done well over the years. The corruption cost me hundreds of thousands of dollars and all my savings. I had nothing left. Had my parents not allowed me to stay with them during this time, I would have been forced to the streets. You may feel that to be in such a situation was the result of weak character. Perhaps. But if you review my story in future episodes under the playlist as it relates to me, you will see I've spent most of my life doing things that petrify most people. And if you ask me, my greatest talent is my work ethic. It's extreme. I feel it is a fairly sad state of things when someone with such a work ethic struggles as I have. My story is mild compared to a lot of others. I feel as a society, it is not morally right to let this happen. I've built things back up, but the experience haunts me. In developed countries, we often don't know how to use our brains. We don't direct our mind. We are left vulnerable to our emotions, and we then tend to drift to a loop of negative internal chatter, thinking the same thing over and over again. And if it isn't the same thing, it's something similar. Wishing subconsciously to not be in negative emotions, we then wish to not be present. We avoid being present by the use of drugs, alcohol, consuming hours at a sitting of social media or other internet sites, eating excessively, watching mindless TV, constantly playing video games, spending excessive amounts of money, gambling, being workaholics, I was one, or many other things. We become, for the most part, a non-thinking, non-contributing being. We kill our potential. Yet look at our lives. We become slaves to performing meaningless tasks. How is it that we have a society with so many people who have a deep hatred for their common man? We have many sociopaths and misanthropes among us. Many of us dislike far more than we like, both in number and in the time we spend on it. We find all kinds of reasons to dislike. We would rather be right in our minds than advance. It is perfectly acceptable to us to even regress in the interest of being right or by making ourselves look better. We don't understand how to get along, how to respect others' opinions. Theoretically or practically, most of us know little about relationships. We engage far too often in hatred, rage, and inconsideration. What we fail to realize is our hatred does far more damage to us individually than it does to those we hate. The greatest thing we could do for ourselves is to remove the hatred. Most of us do not consider a better world. There may be general improvement throughout humanity, but overall it's still shockingly bad. Most of us are taught so that we can do mindless repetitive tasks throughout our lives. Most of us really make no contributions to society. Being a mid-level executive for a company who produces products which kill us or lessens our abilities to perform is not contributing. Most of us are not taught how to be parents, how to be spouses, how to adapt. This leads us to a tremendous amount of unneeded and easily avoidable suffering. If we were properly developed, our world would be very different, and we would all live in an unimaginable life of riches in every form. Our quality of life would be far better even for the wealthy. Do you believe we give it all the effort we can to be as advanced as we can? If you do, then do nothing. But I would challenge you to an exercise to consider how our processes could be better. If you don't believe we have given it all the effort we can, then let's do better. Let's figure out how to make this life better for ourselves and society as a whole. We should constantly ask the question of how things can be better. If you like the channel and feel these are important issues, please support the channel by letting others know, subscribing and liking. Thank you so much for watching, and see you in the next video.